Mario. Mario is up next. Mario is the co-founder of ClimberHotel, based right here in Lisbon. When we approached Mario about coming on board, Mario does a lot of mentoring and he gives up his time very, very generously. And so he's got a lot of really useful insights to share with you from the perspective of building a global company based right here in Portugal. So a round of applause for Mario, please.
Okay guys, can you hear me well? Cool. So my name is Mario. I'm the founder and CEO of ClimberHotel. For those who don't know, ClimberHotel is a startup that has created a software in the hotel space. We advise the hotels what is the price they should be selling the rooms. This is my third startup, and I want to tell you the history, how did I became an entrepreneur and everything, or the main stuff I learned on the way that is related with the topic that we are here discussing today. So when I was in university, I knew that I didn't want to work for a corporate and a hierarchy, a big corporation. I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So I went to the university here in Lisbon. I moved here when I was 18. I decided right away that my goal was to finish in 3 years. And after that, I went to abroad to do a master's. So I wanted to work in hospitality because I wanted to travel the world at the same time that I was working in something that was related with my passion. And I thought I love traveling, so that's a good area to be. So I studied the master, and the school gave me the opportunity to go and keep on studying after to a country of my choice. I chose Peru, and I went there to do a part of an MBA while I was working in a hostel. Before that, I was working in hotels, so I was acquiring expertise on hotels. I did the biggest mistake of my life when I made the decision to come back to Portugal and work for one of the biggest hotel brands in the world, which is Four Seasons. It was not my dream. I asked my hotel director, my master's director at the time, Mireia, if you'd be in my position, 22, 23 years old, nothing no responsibilities, where would you go? And she said, I would join the biggest hotel chain in the world. So that's what I did. I came to work in Lisbon in supposedly the best hotel. And I did the wrongest mistake because I was not following really my passion. I was following the dreams of someone. And this may seem a cliche. I learned a lot on the way, but what's really important here is that I was I came to Portugal after cool experiences. I was full of energy to implement innovation, and I came to the hotel. It was 50% occupancy, which means that they could be doing 50% more in extra revenue. And I proposed a project to increase the revenues of the hotel, exploring new markets, China, India. And they said, okay, but they never really invested time on helping me achieving it. So I implemented, the project started to generate some revenue. And in the end, when the internship was over, because it was an internship, even though I was generating 300,000 euros to the hotel in extra revenues, extra reservations, they told me like this: Mario, with 23 years old, I was working as a receptionist in London. And I said, okay, fuck off. I'm leaving the hotel. If I need to be in your position as you were when you were 23 years old, then this is not the type of company I want to work for. So I knew that big corporations were not for me, but I had to give it a try. This was the try. So I moved to London. I took the decision to leave Portugal. I was super upset. I thought this is not a country that invests in young people. It's changing now, gladly. So I was working for a startup, an American startup that was looking for a business developer. So I was talkative, I was social, someone that knows how to relate. So I was working for this company, finding hostels to register in the platform. So this is like Booking.com, but for hostels. So it was really cool. For 5-6 months, I was working as hell. I learned how I used to live in a startup, or to work in a startup. And then something happened. They got acquired. When they got acquired, they stopped needing my services. So I made the decision to go for something more impactful. I was learning a lot, but I decided to leave my comfort zone. And being an entrepreneur is that every day, doing stuff that we are not used to and that is difficult. So I decided to go to Iran. The story is complicated. I'm not going to go through it, but it's really cool. For those who don't know Iran, it's a country in the middle of difficult other countries, but it's a pretty stable country. Perhaps you have the idea that it's a country of terrorists, that is desert, that there's explosions, that there's bomb attacks, and that. It's nothing like this. It's a really cool country. People are exactly like us with the same type of dreams. Entrepreneurial, very nice people. I was able to travel all over the country without paying any cent for a hostel. because people were hosting me. So just to change mentalities, I was living there. I was really enjoying my experience. But after 6 months, I felt that my freedom, especially my speech freedom, liberdad, was being taken from me because of the regime. So I decided to go for something more impactful. For me, it was obvious that more impactful than Iran would be Africa. So within Africa, I had several options, and I chose the worst. The worst, the more impactful. I decided to go to Burkina Faso. For those who don't know, Burkina Faso is also a fucked up country in the middle of West Africa. This is how people live. That's pretty much how I was living for 1 year. So I was doing a voluntary service there for an organization called ISEC, which is the world's largest student-run organization. I was vice president of the organization there. Why I chose Burkina Faso, it's interesting. I wanted to learn French. It's a French-speaking country. I wanted to help an entity, which was ISEC, to expand in the region. So I always worked the expansion, so I wanted to work on that. I wanted to be able to travel around Africa. I wanted to teach in university, which I had the chance to do there, to pay my expenses in the country, because this was a voluntary service. And I really wanted to be slapped in the face, really, to uma chapada, completamente. So that's what I had. The first day I arrived, I felt, wow, this is not, what the fuck is this? Nobody deserves to live here. I'm leaving. This is not for me. I cannot help. And my family, my friends, yeah, of course, give up, come back to Portugal, go somewhere else in the world. This is not for you. I'm not going to tell you how hard the living conditions were, but were really hard to the point that I hate, to me, every day the same stuff during 9 months I was there. So that's how tough it was. Why did I show this? Because this put me in the mindset of creating, of resistance, of stop complaining, basically. These guys told you how they build their startups. They told you about the hard moments, but they didn't tell you that this is really, really hard in the everyday. And what I had before, like my background, helped me to be in the mindset that if I survived all of that, if I survived Burkina Faso, if I survived the fact that I didn't have much what to eat, if I was going to the hospital pretty much every day, if I didn't have water, if I didn't have a fridge, if I didn't have a room, I can build a startup. Really, I can make it scale and be successful. So this is how I got to become an entrepreneur. In Burkina Faso, after 8 p.m., I didn't have light. So I used to go to the rooftop when there was still light and started drawing what came before this canvas. So this canvas is really the beginning of my startup. This is a kind of business plan that I idealized at that time, where I focus on product, marketing, logistics, HR, growing plans, everything. So what I was doing in Burkina Faso is that where I still had light, I didn't have electricity, I was going and started drawing the first ideas of my first startup. So I came back to Portugal. I told my parents I will go back to the north. I'm from close to Viseu. For 1 year, I'll be working from the 3rd floor of our house. Nobody will tell me anything. Don't get me a job position, because I will not apply for a job. That's what I want to do. I knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I was really passionate about becoming an entrepreneur in this travel space. Nobody could remove me from that. So was I in the same position that you are today? Probably no, because I believe it's an assumption. You didn't suffer enough. What I wanted to tell you is that you are privileged. You have privilege because you have access to a group of people that have been through it, building startups successfully or not, but they know what you shouldn't do. Perhaps they don't know what you have to do, but they know what you don't have to do. So let me share some stuff with you. I did a lot of mistakes. With my first startup, I did the same that he did. I borrowed money from my parents to build what nobody wanted. I built travel guides. I don't know if no one knows about Travel with Mario. It was my first company. So it was digital travel guides to use on your mobile to travel around Europe in cities I have lived. So it would work like a kind of recommendations from Mario, but Mario not being there. I built something that nobody wanted because I was in Canas Senhorim. It's a rural village, and I went to my friends and I asked, "Do you travel?" "Yes." "How often do you travel?" 2 times a year." "Where do you travel?" "Figueira da Foz." And then I developed travel guides based on the insights I got from these guys. So I really did the validation with the wrong people, with the wrong segments, with the wrong market. And not only that, I really believe today that if you are building a startup and if your core is technological, the tech should be inside your house, within the walls of your house. You should develop yourself. And what I did wrong, I developed in China with Xiaolin, meeting on Fridays. The guy didn't understand well English, so we would agree, he would have developed 10 things. Next Friday we'd meet again and he would have developed only 5. Xiaolin, what happened? Oh, one year later it was the same. So finally we launched it, nobody wanted this shit. Nobody paid for it. I didn't have return on investment. I had lost 1 year of my life. Working from the 3rd floor of my house, really from 7 in the morning to 11 in the night, completely alone. So three lessons to take from here. If you want to build something, don't build it alone. Don't outsource your core, and validate. But validate really with real validation. Real validation, you can do it with the help of guys like Sam and Ryan, because they know how to do it. They told you some ways you can validate. There's much more that they have to tell you, because what do you have to validate? You have to validate the pricing, the name, the business model, the unique value proposition, your target audience. There's so many stuff that you need to validate. So every time you need to validate something, you need to bring traffic to your website and test it. So you cannot test 5 stuff at the same time. Okay? So this is something that you have to do. But I understand your position. Perhaps most of you are in the position, or you already had an idea that you wanted to create and you didn't go forward, or you tried and you failed. Am I wrong? Someone tried here to, or at least had an idea in the past, I want to build it, but this is a great idea, this is a fantastic idea, but never really came to execute it? Raise your arms. Okay, several. And in that position, you feel that, let me execute already. And let me execute already is a wrong mindset. You have to validate, and it takes time. So I'm going to share later a program that really helped me to understand this mindset. So after travel with Mario, I learned my lessons. I found a co-founder to join me. I moved cities from Viseu to Aveiro, and I joined Luis. Long story short, why didn't this startup didn't work? Even though we came to Lisbon Challenge, which is a Lisbon Startup Accelerator International, we got European funds, we increased the team to 5 people, and we failed completely. We didn't get to market, we didn't get sold 1 unit. Again, we validated it wrong, with the wrong people, we took us too much time to develop something. So what these guys tell you and teach you how to do is how to build something that you can measure immediately and learn from it. MVP, prototype, whatever. And we developed a full product in the end that nobody wanted again. Luckily, I understood what clients wanted at that time. I also didn't mention that me and Luis, we had a terrible relation, and we were discussing 80% of the time, discussing arguing 80% of the time. So if you have to build a startup with someone, which I recommend you to, do it with someone that you really trust. If you see any red flag, the guy sleeps too late, the guy doesn't come to office every day, the guy is not really committed, the guy whatever, quit. This is like a personal relationship. If it doesn't work, don't try again. It will not work. Okay? When there's doubts, there's no doubts. So I decided to create my third startup with the learnings I had got from my second and first startup. The second startup, I learned that hotels, which was the theme of my second startup, it was a software for hotels, they didn't wanted more data to make their decisions. They wanted that data, they wanted the consequence of that data. They wanted automated decisions. That's why in Climber, we decided to create a tool that not only analyzes the data of the hotel, but makes the decision for them. In this case, the pricing. What is the price that they should be selling the rooms? What are the channels they should be selling the rooms? When they should be selling the rooms? To whom they should be selling the rooms? So we decided that for them. Okay? And luckily I understood that. We launched at Climber. It's going okay now. I don't consider myself a successful entrepreneur because we are not making millions. And for me, successful is making money. Okay? So we are growing. We are 8 people, 6 people full time. We fundraised already. We have some paying clients. We are not millionaires. We haven't been acquired. But we are on the way to do it. Now, the more important thing of this session I was just introducing is like really what make me. The learnings I know today, and mainly they came from the experience that I had, but from ClimberHotel, I didn't want it to fail again. So in my third startup, I didn't want it to fail again. I knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I knew I didn't want it to work for someone else. My passion was this. You could offer me 10,000 K of a salary per month today, I would refuse it. Because I know what I want to be. I want to be an entrepreneur. That's what I like. So this program, it's called Founder Institute. It's a 3-month methodology, like a plan, and they tell you what to do with weekly assignments in different topics. One of them is research and customer development. And I'm only focusing on this today because this really helped me a lot and builds on top of what Ryan and Sam said today. So what they told you to do is test. Bring traffic to your web page and test, right? And here's what I'm telling you more on top of that. In Climber, we had an idea in the beginning, a revenue management software for independent hotels. But then this program made us test the same type of technology, but applied for hotels in another geography, Brazil, or in a slightly different type of hotels, which was service apartments. So we tested. So what happens if you bring traffic to a web page, you see that there was a problem, you can solve it, you have the means to do it, someone is paying for it, you can make money. Perfect, 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 perfect. Tick, 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 tick. But what comes after that? Is the market really big enough? Is it only one person paying? There's 2 people paying. If you have 2 people, you already have a market. But is it really sufficient to invest my time and effort to perhaps make an exit later and be acquired and to be worth the effort? Like, the market should be big enough. It must be, or I would recommend it to be a niche because it's much more easy to focus in the beginning because you really know who are your target market. But what we did in Climber, we tested 3 different markets. In the end, we decided for Climber what is the original today. What came after is that, okay, you tick all these points, you have the market, you have the problem, you have the solution, you can do it, you have clients, they are paying, the market is big. What comes after? The 7th tick is competition. You can build an amazing stuff, but if this stuff is already in the market, there's already many guys doing it exactly like you, and I come and I ask you, what's the differentiation? And you don't know? You really need to know in detail the market percentages, why you are different in all the pricing page, the unique value proposition. And that's something that entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs, most likely in the same stage that you are, you fail. You fail completely. Why I launched Travel with Mario, my first company? Because I didn't go to Google and look for personalized travel guides for Barcelona, or personalized travel guides to Lisbon, or whatever, customized guides. I didn't do it. If I would have done it with one search, I wouldn't have launched my startup. I wouldn't have lost 10,000 euros. And I wouldn't have lost 1 year of my life. So do your fucking competition analysis because it's super crucial to know where you have to differentiate and show you the next steps. A quick story. Yesterday night, I asked Jason. Jason is the guy that lives with me, a flatmate. And I came home and said, Mario, I have a good idea. I have an amazing idea, revolutionary. Okay, tell me about it. And he started telling me about it. And I said, I heard about it here. I heard about it there. What about pricing? The guy didn't know how to deconstruct any of my abstractions. He didn't know anything. So the way it's a pity because the way he told me that, it's the same way I hear at least 5 times a day. So as he said, I do mentorship. So a lot of people, perhaps like you, came to me and they, Mario, I have this idea, what you recommend me, and I tell them, go through this process, okay? Do it yourself. I can send it later. Do it, because the guys don't know anything. The guys have an idea and they think they have a brilliant idea, but there's so much validation that you have to do it. You have to do before, okay? And what I want to tell you is that whenever you have an idea in your mind, go and speak with someone that has done it. Find a mentor, find an expert, because most probably either don't solve the pain, so it's not worth being developed. The market is small. You cannot monetize it. You cannot make money with it, or you cannot make sufficient money, or you cannot differentiate from the competition. Okay? There are so many reasons why your startup would fail. So talk with guys that can help you on that. What's the #1 reason why startups fail? Each said before, because they build stuff that nobody wants. That's what I did with my first company. That's what I did with my second company. What I would recommend you, either you are in B2B or B2C, it doesn't matter. Go and speak customer interviews. I've done in the early stage when I had these 3 ideas for a revenue management system for hotels, apartments, or in Brazil. I went and spoke with the hotels there, face to face, 30 minutes interview, a structured questionnaire, like try to understand what they do, how they do revenue management, what's their pains, how can I help them, what is it what tools are they using today that doesn't solve the full scope of the problem. Analyze the interview. Get to your learnings. Get to your findings, okay? Look for their problems. It's not worth to build a startup that is not focused on solving a problem. I will say again, it's not worth to build a startup that is not trying to solve a problem. And it should be a problem that is worth solving, okay? These apps I have an idea for an amazing mobile app. I hear it every day. It doesn't really solve any problem. It's just fantasy. It's just, I don't know. Other stuff that is important. It's understandable, and of course it will happen that you get to a point that you already have some learnings from your conversations with your potential clients, and you have your key assumptions. I believe that my hotels will pay for this. I believe that my model will be charging the B2C, not the B2B. I believe whatever. These are assumptions, and you need to validate your assumptions. So write down your assumptions and write down tests how you can validate your assumptions. Bring in traffic to your web page, go and speak with people, whatever. But you need to validate these assumptions, because these assumptions, validated, will reduce the risk of your startup. Do online surveys. I believe that I'm really a believer of interviewing people. What I always recommend, if you have a project on B2C, at least speak with 250 people. If you have a project on B2B, at least get answers from your survey from 50 companies, okay? We did that for hotels. We were able to validate, first we wrote down the riskiest key assumptions. What is it that I need to validate? Because if this is not validated properly, my business will fail. And so I designed questions to try to get to those answers. And then I came to my own conclusions. We did in total 220 email surveys. And that's the funny part. We did, this is not the correct number, this is almost 944. We did over 1,000 phone interviews where we spent 5 minutes with a client, which is a hotel, and we were calling every single hotel in Portugal. We were calling every single hotel in Rio and Brazil, in São Paulo, that are 4- and 5-star hotels. We were calling all of them. It took us 2 weeks. We were on the phone full day. And the amazing stuff we did, this is what I call validation. This is really market validation. This is exaggerated, perhaps, I don't know. But it gave us the means to understand really what the client wants. Who are the revenue managers? What are their position? Which tools do they use? What pricing are they able to pay? Which markets are they located? What's more important for them to be included in a software that we are developing? Which ones they are using? How many hours per day do they use? So we got to know all those stuff, and based on that, we developed the priorities for the first features we would develop. Why is this important? Because then you guarantee you will not develop stuff that nobody wants. So still today, based on the analysis that we got, the answers that we got, we developed a product roadmap. In the product roadmap, we defined really clear what we want to include in the prototype, in the MVP, the minimum viable product, the first version of the product, second version of product. So we have product roadmap for 2 years. We are still in the MVP stage, okay? So these insights were super important for us to develop a product that someone wanted. But we collected 1,000 interviews from B2B. So don't tell me that if you have a B2C project, you cannot reach 300 guys. Go to your university, go to the cemetery, go to a supermarket, go to where there are people and interview guys. Because that's not so hard. Because if you think that's hard, then try to build a startup. It's 100 times harder, okay? That's the stuff that nobody tells you. But what's really the most important part of the Founder Institute, and here are my tips. Whenever you are, like I believe you are in the position, otherwise you wouldn't be here, you have ideas, you want to build something. So really create a long-term vision for whatever you want to achieve. He mentioned that he is joining the company, he has shares in the company that acquired him because he believes in the vision. If you don't have a strong vision, you will not be able to recruit, you will not be able to sell, you will not be able to overcome the resistances that will come to you. And the resistance might be lack of funding. If he wouldn't believe really in his company, he wouldn't have get to the point where he is today, that he sold his company. Every startup will have and has hard moments. I think 95% of the time it's really hard moments, and you need to be prepared for that. So if you don't have a strong vision in the beginning, is the first thing that you need to define. What I want to become by building this. Set bold goals. Create an action plan. It's crucial. If you don't know where you'll be, what you'll be doing in the next month or next 2 months, you're screwed. And then, this is really the key part. Validate, fail, validate, learn, validate, fail, validate, succeed. This is cycles. Lean startup is about cycles. You build, you measure, you learn. You build, you measure, you learn. That's so easy, but sometimes so complex to understand. I don't know why. Speak with these guys. Set the key assumptions that you want to test. Define experiments. Come to your learnings, and then build upon it. Okay? So my main suggestion for you today is validate. Guys, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mario. That was awesome. We've got 2 quick things to say now. 1 second. Here we go. All right. Okay, so it's now the end of GrowthFest. Thank you all for coming along. I hope you learned something today. The idea behind this event was to give you something practical that you could take away and apply in your business tomorrow. From now on, you've got something that you can actually do and use. And also to give you exposure to a couple of guys who are a few steps ahead of you. Mario and Nathaniel coming along and sharing their own in-the-trenches experience of what it's really like to be a founder of a startup that's either exited or well on its way to a successful exit. I think if I could summarize what you guys both said, like doing a startup is really, really, really hard. And everybody tells you that when you go into it, but you don't realize just how hard it is until you get started. And you need to be persistent, but it needs to be smart persistence. You need to learn from everything. You need to learn from the mistakes. Doing the same dumb shit over and over and over and over again doesn't make you an entrepreneur, it makes you a moron. Doing something once, it doesn't work, try something different. Doesn't work, try something different. Doesn't work, try something different. That kind of smart persistence, that's what builds successful companies and successful entrepreneurs. What we're going to do from here is, if you've got any questions, come and have a chat to us afterwards. We're going to be hanging around here for about the next 15 minutes or so, and then we've got to pack up and clean up and everything else. And we're going to head to a place called Cup and Chino. If you go out to the main entrance, you can Google it if you want, but if you go out to the main entrance, and you turn left, it's about 1 block down the road. It's like a bar, restaurant thing. They're open until 2 o'clock in the morning. So we're going to go there for a bit of a drink afterwards. If you'd like to join us, come along for a drink, have a chat, ask us a few questions. We'll also be around here for the next 15 minutes or so. So if you have anything... does anyone have any questions that they've just thought of before the event finishes? No? Nothing they want to ask publicly? Okay. Anyway, thank you all for coming along. This has been GrowthFest Lisbon.